At the tone, please record your message.
platform you're watching on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day wherever you are. Whereas Bitcoin is kind of having another pivotal moment. Are we going up or are we going down? Because yesterday after the live stream, I went home, I was watching Korean drama as always, and I keep getting the price alerts from CoinGecko from different exchanges, seeing Bitcoin jumping to 114k, and yet again, I checked the price this morning in Hong Kong time. We are right now sitting at 108k or 107k, somewhere around that. So are we going up or are we going down? Anyways, we cannot ignore some of the bearish catalysts and also some of the bullish momentum we still have. So this is a critical moment. We have to decide whether Bitcoin is basically so aligned with the 4-year cycle that we are done. I'm going to see you guys in the next, I don't know, 365 days or something like that, or the macro is enough to push up Bitcoin, push up the price of Bitcoin to even further. We're going to dive into the TA. We're going to look at data. We're also going to look at on-chain to see basically where we are, where we headed for in the market right now. Of course, after that, we'll do some macro because Donald Trump is saying some quite bold statement yet again. I mean, it's not surprised, right? But they are Donald Trump is coming really hard on China. He literally said hours ago that he wants China to pay 155% on those tariffs. Like, he's coming really hard at the moment. But is he being real? What's the deal right now? Anyways, we're gonna dive in. First of all, we're gonna look at the TA as always. We're gonna start with the hourly chart. Really build up from the shorter time frame to a higher time frame. So starting from the hourly chart, like I heard about the downward trend since all the way days ago, since we have been forming this from 126k till I would say 123k. So this is an overall downtrend that I spotted. Of course, I wouldn't have expect we have a black swan event like this. If I expected such thing, maybe I'm a market maker, but well, I'm not a market maker, so I didn't know that this would happen. Anyways, yesterday there was so much like bullishness in the market, like on Twitter, because Bitcoin pumped to 114k. So, well, this is actually deviate from our. So we have like a little breakout out of this general downtrend. However, as I've been talking about this for days in our live streams, is that if we zoom closer, we'll see we didn't actually we pumped above the overall downtrend, but we quickly get rejected. So maybe it's just like one standalone deviation. And as I keep saying for days, like, wake me up when Bitcoin actually break out of this general downtrend. Like, otherwise on the hourly, I would say it's pretty much nothing much has changed apart from we are really building up that momentum, whether we're going to have a leg up or we're going to head to a bear market, because that's what the 4-year cycle has been suggesting us. Well, one thing I noticed is that we have forming essentially a higher lows here. So we are seeing back from this higher lows and really forming this as a support level. So this is what I want to see. One thing I witness is that, okay, we essentially squeezing in, so more momentum is building. We are just like waiting for the confirmation whether we're gonna break, okay, we lose this level of support, or we're gonna basically break out of this downward trend. So either way, we know there's like a big moment coming for Bitcoin. Okay, if we lose this level of support, so if we lose that in the coming hours, let's not forget 101k is still on the table. This number, it depends on which exchanges you're watching on. Right now, I'm using the chart from Binance, but like, okay, if you use Coinbase or Bybit, you're going to get different data. So for Binance, 102 or 101K is on the table. And this also aligned with the weekly, so a higher time frame if you guys have been watching our analysis for a bit. So 101K is also where the 50-week moving average is standing right now. So if we lose this level support, then 101K is still on the table. Anyway, so this is the more like a bearish side. The more bullish catalyst I'm seeing is that, okay, first of all, we tested this as resistant. What I want to see is that Bitcoin actually have like 2 or 3 hourly candles close above this so that I can confirm we are essentially going to higher places. Basically, what we're doing here is to look for the confirmation which direction we are heading to, because Bitcoin is so undecisive right now. And if we going to higher places, and one key resistance that we're watching, pull up the VLVP. So let's go to the volume. Again, 112K is a key volume. So basically at this price level, lots of volume is coming in, lots of trading activity for Bitcoin. So 112K is a key resistance, and it also aligned with the overall downtrend. So let's see if we manage to break that in the coming hours. Let's see if Bitcoin gonna have some confirmation. If we manage to break 112K, of course, we're gonna test another like a major resistance, which is 115K. So, and then we will talk. Right now, I would say Bitcoin is just like building up that momentum. Not much has changed compared to our last live stream, I would say. So that's on the hourly. Let's also hop onto the daily, and we're slowly building up our case here. Let's go ahead and close the VLVP. And as you know, like on the hourly, this squeezing, so this momentum, this downtrend, and also this rising like higher lows, all these are still intact. And what I noticed on daily is that we are consistently hitting the mid level, which is again 112K. That is aligned with the downtrend and also with the VLVP we were looking at. If we close above 112K, the next key resistance that we are spotting, so almost like a mid level on the daily we're seeing here. So it's 116 to 117K. But until we are really have confirmation and break out and having a leg up, like 117K is still down the line. Again, this is on the daily, but there are bullish catalysts that couldn't ignore. Like TA wise, maybe we're gonna squeeze inside this triangle, building that momentum in the coming hours. But if you also hop onto the S&P 500, the reason why I'll bring up S&P is that, okay, we are on the daily here. S&P is very close to its previous all-time high. So it's like, okay, it's like 0.3%, another 0.3% to just to reach its previous all-time high. And Bitcoin and S&P, they are highly correlated. We know this because Bitcoin is becoming so big. Like institutions are getting in, all the big boys are investing in Bitcoin, like BlackRock, basically the institution that control the whole world. They are all for Bitcoin right now. So do you expect, okay, I still think the 4-year cycle is intact, but not as relevant compared to the previous cycles, of course. As Bitcoin gets more by days, I do think that the relevance of the 4-year cycle get basically smaller and slowly become a macro asset. That being said, like I personally do not think 6th of October being the cycle top. I do think we're going to see a cycle top in Q4 this year, though. So I'm kind of playing everything by ear, taking the data one at a time, so day by day. what I like about the S&P is that, okay, since Bitcoin and S&P are so closely correlated, if we're on the daily chart, we are so close to all-time high, I do expect that Bitcoin, we're going to follow suit. Maybe we're going to take some time because on the hourly chart, like squeezing that momentum, really building up that catalyst. But S&P already tell us that we are so close to the previous all-time high. So that's one bullish catalyst. And basically the macro is looking quite good. Forget we have another FOMC meeting, so we do have another rate cut to come. People are speculating we're going to get 2 rate cuts in 2025. So one on 29th of October, which is basically in the coming days, and another one's going to be in December. So people are speculating we will at least get like 50 basis point cut in 2025. So in the coming 2 months. Also, so we have like a QT ending very soon. We have confirmation from Jerome Powell that QT would come to an end in the coming months. Of course, it's not immediate, and QT doesn't mean we're gonna print money. It's not QT and QE; they're not necessarily the same concept. But like having QT coming to an end, that's another bullish catalyst. So all these I couldn't. We are having some mixed signals. So on one hand, we have the 4-year cycle and also MSTR. Hop onto the MSTR chart and bring out the weekly candles. So on MSTR weekly candles, we broke below the 50-week moving average. This is the, again, very bearish catalyst. So on one hand, we have bearish catalyst like this. Other hand, we have macro looking actually not so bad. The US economy is still so far the strongest among the whole world. And we have global liquidity unlocking, not only from the US, but central banks around the whole world, both in Asia, so between the East and the West. Like they basically, every central bank in the whole world, they need to print money and they need to lower rates. And also when it comes to the S&P 500, like basically everything is not so worse. I feel like the Bitcoin market is overreacting a little bit. Like, of course, we experienced a Black Friday, a Black Swan event for sure. But like because of one tweet from Donald Trump about the 100% tariffs, is that enough to justify a prolonged bear market in the Bitcoin price again? Like, of course, I have my doubt. And let's hop back to the Bitcoin chart and let's go to the weekly candles so that we could look at things at a higher time frame. So on the weekly candles again, let's pull up the RSI. One thing, another bearish catalyst, bearish signal that I'm seeing is that basically we have been forming this like bearish divergence from 2024 till now. So more than a year we have this like bearish divergence. But again, we are looking at things at a higher time frame. So we are on the weekly candle. So it takes maybe a few weeks and perhaps a few months to actually see Bitcoin going down and really seeing the effect of this like bearish divergence. This is just like one little thing I noticed on the higher time frame. So that's on the RSI. And if we also pull up the 50-week moving average, technically we're still above the 50 weeks. So I do have one wild thought. Like, okay, we haven't, even the Black Swan event, we haven't technically touched the 50 weeks, so which is the here. So I have this wild thought at the moment. What if, so since the hourly chart and daily chart, they kind of like consolidating, they pump a little, and then Bitcoin is back down to 107K again. So basically going sideways. So I kind of have this wild thought, like what if in the coming hours or coming days, there are more pain. And what if we actually touch the 50-week moving average in the coming, I don't know, coming hours or coming days? So this would bring us okay, if we touch and if we don't actually close below the 50-week moving average, that would be a bullish sign for me, because that's what happened in April 2025. So we touched the 50-week moving average, and ever since that, basically, okay, Bitcoin has been on a rally. So a 67% or 60 or 70%, let's go with 70%. So 70% to all-time high 126K. So looks like if that were the case, that would turns out to be a really good buying opportunity. But the timing wise is very important. I know a lot of you guys who watch this channel, they're more like a long-term investor mindset, but some of the folks here, they like to short-term trade, and I sometimes short-term trade as well because it's very fun. So what I would do, I would look for if we are closing below the 50-week or above the 50-week. This happened back in August 2024, and then we touched again in September 2024, and that turns out to be a massive buying opportunity. So my wild guess is, since I do believe the 4-year cycle is still intact, I do think we're gonna slowly become more a macro asset. So the 4-year cycle is less relevant, which is a good thing or bad thing. It depends how you view it, because the 4-year cycle, it makes Bitcoin so predictable. It makes like investing in Bitcoin and trading Bitcoin really easy, in my opinion, compared to any assets in the world. But if Bitcoin becoming macro asset, I mean, as a long-term Bitcoin investors, that's what I should be happy as well. So my wild thought is, if in the coming hours or coming days we touch the 50-week and then we bounce back, the key here comes with the timing. So if we close above or below, so if we close above 50-week, we're just like touching the 50-week moving average. And then when the rate cuts come, we know the FOMC, we have the FOMC decision on 29. So it looks like everything aligned. Are we going to get a final rally on the very last few days of October all the way to Moonvember, because someone likes to call it Moonvember? If that were the case, then maybe we're going to see an all-time high in November this year. And then if Bitcoin wants to do the 4-year cycle again, maybe we're going to get like a tiny bear market. I couldn't ignore the fact that all institutions are here. Maybe we're not going to get a prolonged bear market as we have seen in the previous 3 cycles. So instead of a 365 days of consolidating or going down, maybe we're going to get, I don't know, half of that. So half a year, we're going to have a bear market. This is just my wild guess. Again, we are taking things one at a time, but I'm just showing you guys what I'm seeing on the shorter time frame, on the higher time frame. But one thing I want to stress is that I know a lot of people like to use this like bull market peak indicators. I mean, like a lot of this like on-chain stuff, they has been proven helpful. But one thing that these indicators didn't take into account is the diminishing return. All I would say is that take this with a pinch of like a reference, just to have a more comprehensive analysis. But like the last thing I want to see is that if not many of these indicators are tipping us as we're entering a cycle top. And the last thing I want to see is that people lose money and maybe holding the bag for another a year and a half. So that's the last thing I want to see. Anyways, that's what the TA I wanted to talk about. Let's also hop on. So the first thing I'm bringing to you guys is a short-term holder spend output ratio. I haven't really talked about this indicator before on Roxham TV. So anyways, what this does is that it tells us if short-term Bitcoin investors are selling at a profit or a loss. It looks at coins that moved within the last 155 days. Hence, that's how you classify as holders. When the line, so you see the pink line here. So when line is above one, that means short-term holders are selling at a profit. However, it's below one, that means they're selling at a loss. The level around one, so is basically break even, so no big profit or loss overall. This number acts as like a momentum line for the Bitcoin market. In bull runs, it tends to hold as because people buy when price dips. Bear market, it often becomes the resistance. People sell when price rises. Right now, we are seeing the number is getting very close to one. So we went to the negative number a little bit, and then right now we are approaching the number one, which means the market is in a state of balance. So neither clearly bullish nor bearish, again, aligned with the TA that we were doing. This kind of getting very tight. So a flat pattern often shows up before big moves. Again, like this is like squeezing in. We're seeing this triangle forming. In the past cycles, this type of setup came right before large volatility. Sometimes a final shakeout, other start of a strong rally. The peak of SOLP indicator have been trending lower since early 2024, showing that fewer people are chasing short-term profits, but the lows are rising. You're seeing the red, so basically we can use TA on here as well. So the lows are rising, meaning sellers are getting weaker. Fewer people want to sell at a loss. So overall, what this shows us is that Bitcoin might be in a late stage consolidation phase, getting ready for the next big move up or move down. We don't know for sure yet. Okay, anyways, let us move on to the second indicator I want to talk about. So the second one is the Bitcoin ETF daily flows. So I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the ETFs already. Basically, we are tracking the big money, so the big boys. Huge inflow means like more money coming in, so more buying pressure, of course, is being seen as a bullish signal. On the other hand, an outflow means people are taking profits, so that's a signal. The data is shown in USD, so it combines all Bitcoin ETFs together. Basically, it shows whether the big guys like the hedge funds or institutions, what they are doing. Are they taking profit or are they getting in the market right now? So what's happening right here is that we have had 4 days in a row of outflows, meaning money leaving Bitcoin ETFs. But here's the key. The size of those outflows are shrinking fast. So last Thursday, around $550 million flowed out. Yesterday, only $14 million. This shows that the selling pressure is slowing down. Fewer investors are pulling money out of the Bitcoin ETF market. So if Bitcoin's price drops again, we might see some outflows, but if buyers can hold this level, it could mark the start of a new base where confidence slowly returns. So in short, outflows means still some weakness, but smaller outflows means sellers running out of steam. Maybe we have seen a bottom forming. Again, not entirely. Well, the third one we're going to look at on the on-chain analysis is the Bitcoin funding rate, of course. Like if any of the traders here, I saw you guys doing the live chat on Jam Crypto, so thank you so much for watching. So any of the traders here, you guys must be very familiar with the funding rate. So funding rates are small payments between traders and in Bitcoin futures, basically. They help keep the future price close to the real Bitcoin price, so hence the spot price. When funding rates are positive, it means most traders are betting on higher prices. They have to pay a fee to short sellers. This shows bullish crowding, which again leads to a pullback, because if everyone is so bullish in the market, usually the opposite would happen. So that's why we look at funding rates. So when funding rates are negative, in other words, like the shorts have to pay the longs at a certain percentage. So in simple terms, like positive, if this number is positive, like too many bulls, the market might slow down a little bit. Negative, like too many bears, the market may bounce. What we're seeing here for the funding rate is that we have been trending down, so trending to the neutral rate, which is a healthy sign after an overheated market. In past Bitcoin cycles, the local bottoms often happen when funding rates turn neutral or negative, showing traders flip bearish right before a reversal. If history repeats, we might still see one more dip before a bounce. Again, that aligned with the wild guess I was saying from the TA hourly chart or daily chart of Bitcoin. So right now, almost every metric, so from the Bollinger Band to the short-term SOPR, it shows volatility is compressing. You remember the triangle, drawing the triangle on the hourly chart of Bitcoin on the TA as well. So this means a big move is coming very soon. We don't know which direction for sure. The probabilities slightly favor an upward reversal, but we could still get a final shakeout fast to push funding rates to negative now. We are approaching neutral, but we still have to the red side gone to the negative side. So I would say the market, like either way, it is a key inflection point. The market is quiet, but like not for long. So that's another very exciting time for Bitcoin. Anyway, so that's for the data. So that's TA, and also that's for the on-chain analysis. Moving on to the next segment, we also have some news analysis. But before we get into that, let's throw out the ad, and I'll see you guys in 3 minutes.
Security matters. Zappo Bank, the only way to bank your Bitcoin. Apply now at zappobank.com.
So, tell us about your furry friend here. What's his name?
Oh, this? This is Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
It's not just a cat, he's family.
Quite a name, and I must say, looks quite pampered.
Oh, absolutely. Bitcoin deserves nothing but the best. He's my little prince.
But with such a valuable pet, aren't you afraid of losing him?
Losing Bitcoin? No, it never happened before, so it's not something I worry about. Excuse me for a moment. Bitcoin, stay here, right?
Bitcoin, no! Bitcoin, come on, little buddy, Bitcoin, I need you. Don't go.
Welcome back. As I promised you guys before the ad, we're gonna now do some macro analysis and some news, basically what's going on in the world, because as a Bitcoin investor, we want to know that as well. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, we have the tariffs tension rising between US and China. Yet again, the tariff talks, I know it's extremely boring, but again, that's how it happened for the market crash we saw on the Black Friday last week. So Donald Trump said these tariffs will help protect American jobs and reduce the trade gap around $400 billion and pressure China over things like technology thief and also fentanyl exports. But this time, literally, this just happened before I hop onto the live stream. So the numbers are huge. Donald Trump plans to raise tariffs to 155% on all Chinese imports starting on exactly 1st of November. He said this will bring up to $300 billion a year to help pay US debt. Of course, most of the economists disagree with this. They want this move could make prices in America go up about like 0.4% to 1% and slow global growth. Personally, I think this is just Trump being Trump again. This is exactly his usual so-called art of the deal style, make big threats, then pull back to negotiate. He used this trick back in 2018 to 2020, but it's risky now because both sides, so both US and China right now, they have stronger tools. China has rare earths control and US has those really advanced chips export ban. So again, I would say both sides are getting stronger. In the previous term of Donald Trump, we didn't really have AI, but now AI is really in the talk. So let's come back to the tariffs. Like, why is the tension all of a sudden rising again, like slamming 155% tariffs? So if you guys were confused, just like me when I was doing my research for the live stream, well, let us go back in time to look at some timeline between the US and China when it comes to tariffs. So, of course, in early 2025, when Donald Trump took office and he added 10% tariffs on Chinese imported goods. So that was the early 2025, and he raised more tariffs on EVs, on solar panels, on steel. In response, of course, like China gonna retaliate. So China limited exports as well. But during that time, since they were fighting too much, there were like pauses when it comes to tariffs during talks. Did they extend them? And then basically what happened on 10th October is that there's an announcement that China gonna limit the exports for the rare earths, and Donald Trump was so mad, gonna raise tariffs to 100%. Right now, they announced 55% coming into effect on exactly 1st of November. So I would say this is like a repeating pattern for Trump negotiation tactics. So he usually announce big and then pause, like delays, and then have some talks in China, raise again, and then hint at deal. But right now, Donald Trump confirmed again, so today, 22nd of October, that tariffs will start exactly on 1st of November unless China agrees to a deal. China said the US is panicking and is ready to fight back with its own tariffs on US goods like cooking oil and soybeans. At the same time, we know there's a meeting coming soon. We know Donald Trump's going to go to Asia. So Donald Trump is still hoping for a meeting with Xi Jinping in South Korea to strike a deal on rare earths and fentanyl before the deadline. But I personally think mostly 55% is just it's a bluff. Like Donald Trump, he has been in in office. This is his second term, so we kind of know his style already. He's known for starting high, then backing down to a smaller number, I don't know, maybe 60% or 80% just to claim victory. That's what he did during the phase one deal in 2020. Still, there's real danger. If no deal happens, these tariffs could cause a mini recession in 2026, raise consumer costs, and spark global tension. I would say that's the last thing Donald Trump wants. So that's another reason that I don't think the macro is that bad, and I don't think Bitcoin is that bad in the long term. All right, so what goods are hit the hardest? Like what Chinese goods? So these new tariffs targeted about $800 billion of Chinese goods, so around 60% of total US and China trade. The main categories include, of course, like electronics, so think iPhones or laptops and toys, and then industrial goods like steel and solar panels get hit very hard, so up to 100%. There's also agriculture products from the Chinese. So no direct tariffs on rare earths, because we cover this extensively in our live streams, like multiple live streams on Roxham TV, because the US relies on those rare earths from China. So 80% of that is actually from China. So US can't afford to place a tariffs on rare earths. China already restricted some of their exports. I would say a quiet but powerful move that would really hurt US defense and EV industries. So anyways, paying for Trump's tariffs, right? I'm afraid to break it to you. So far is actually American. So that's not what Donald Trump has been dreaming about. When US company imports goods from China, it pays tariffs. So not China. Study shows, if you scroll down, so data suggests that the US businesses have absorbed most of that tariff cost through July 2025, not foreign sellers. All right. So actually, most of that is the average. So I would say the average American household pays about $1,300 more per year due to higher prices. Tariffs for sure maybe protect some jobs, but they also cause inflation and slower growth. So yes, tariffs are, in other words, a more pretty word for taxing American. Of course, during Donald Trump campaign, he couldn't use such word like, okay, we're gonna tax you, but he kind of packaged that because he is a really good marketer, and he packaged the whole tariff thing as a patriotic revenue that making the foreign countries paying for America, but actually American businesses are suffering the most. So what to watch right now? Of course, like 1st of November is a key date to watch. There is a 50% chance that Donald Trump and Xi Jinping will reach a deal by late October, so which means in coming days, just to post 155% hike. Like, for my guess is that both parties don't want tariffs because it's hurting both economies. But if they do not, okay, do expect higher inflation in the US and also slower global trade, and perhaps even higher gold prices, because gold is already keep breaking new all-time high and making Bitcoin not as shiny as ever, at least on the year-to-date term. So this trade war isn't just about goods anymore. It's about control over technology, rare earths, and national power. Whether this thing 105% is a bluff or not, well, the whole world is watching, and guess who else is watching? Roxham TV. So we're gonna break to you guys the latest updates whenever we have the news. So anyways, moving on to the next news I want to talk about. So it's of course the AWS outages. Like I don't know how many were affected by this, but AWS, if you didn't happen to know already, is the biggest cloud provider in the whole world, and it went down about 15 hours. The problem started in Virginia because of a DNS error. So for those of you who don't know the concept, so DNS it's like an internet phone book. It helps computers find each other. When that broke, apps couldn't see servers anymore. Servers were still on, but nobody could reach them. This glitch spread out fast, taking down major platforms. I'm talking about Snapchat, Fortnite, Coinbase, and Robinhood. For most people, it just meant apps didn't work for them. But for the crypto world, it shows something deeper, like that most of the industry still relies on a centralized system like the AWS. So AWS, of course, fixed the problem later that evening, but the damage was done. There's an estimated of around $100 million in lost trades and productivity. Millions of people were affected globally, and of course there's like renewed fears about the internet's single point of failure. How this happened, like this like of course, like let me scroll down. So how did this happen? So DNS attack. So basically there's a root cause. There's a simple configuration mistake during an update. So it's not no hacking code, but because 30 to 40% of global AWS traffic run through that one region alone, it's kind of a domino effect that we're seeing. So why is this such a big deal? This outage exposed a huge weak spot in how the internet works today. Like, even though companies say they are fully backed, many still depend on a few cloud giants like AWS or Google Cloud, who control about 2/3 of all cloud computing. So that means like if one region fails, the entire system wobbles. One DNS issue, we have billions of dollars being frozen. So-called the decentralized world actually depends on a handful of companies. Again, what's the impact to the crypto world? Like, this is a really funny article. So the AWS outage took down everybody's spot ape. So that's what they saw on OpenSea. The monkey picture is not loading. So that is what's happening in the crypto world. So, okay, apart from, of course, NFT platforms like OpenSea, there are bigger issues. Even Coinbase, Robinhood, and Venom, they couldn't process logins or trades. Binance US and Kraken, they slowed down and went offline for hours. And bigger issue, perhaps the most important issue, is that the monkey picture is not loading. Anyways, Bitcoins was at 114,000 or 112,000 when it happened. And users couldn't even sell or buy on exchanges. The fear and greed index dropped to 25, so extreme fear in the market because people panicked. But here's the key difference. Centralized exchanges stopped, but Bitcoin network didn't even blink. They even know we have a AWS outages, I mean. So I'll say while AWS, Coinbase, and others went down, Bitcoin kept running perfectly. We have a new all-time high when it comes to the hash rate, zero downtime. So no single company or server can shut down Bitcoin. Even if 1/3 of the nodes disappear, the network could still work. And that's really the beauty of Bitcoin when it comes to decentralization. Bitcoin didn't even notice AWS went down, whereas crypto, like, okay, why do crypto projects or even such a big crypto exchanges got affected by this? Because they rely on a single point of provider. It's fast, it's cheap, it's easy to use. We know that. People are still using AWS a lot. AWS actually handles huge traffic spikes. So you only pay for what you use, no need for expensive servers. So that's why a lot of crypto projects are using that. But this convenience comes at a cost, which is, again, centralization. Well, here, even if your blockchain is decentralized, if your website like wallet, API, or data feed runs on AWS, you're still depending on one company. So how do we do this in the future? Like I'll say, okay, fast solution that we could use, like one measure is to we have multi cloud setup, maybe use AWS or Google Cloud, everything together, and don't just rely on one region, and use providers like backup DNS provider like Cloudflare, stuff like that. So this is like one solution, but what this means moving forward is that it really does show how fragile our whole online world really is and how resilient like Bitcoin, the whole decentralization idea is. I would say this is a wake-up call. Centralized cloud is fast, is easy to use, but it's very fragile. Decentralized blockchain may be slower but unstoppable. So the decision is yours. This outage really highlight this one thing very clearly. Many crypto projects, they aren't decentralized. They are just they're just like companies trying to make profit at the end of the day. So that's for the update from this actually happened 2 days ago on Monday. So AWS. Let's move on to the final news because we have to wrap very soon. All right, so the final news, of course, we have to talk about AI because I love AI, and I think everyone on this planet Earth could not ignore AI, otherwise they're missing out big time. So it's this big breakthrough when it comes to AI. So Google's AI didn't just read research papers, it created a brand new idea for fighting cancer, and the lab proved that actually worked. This might be one of the biggest AI in science, I would say. So how does this happen? Google DeepMind and also Yale University, they have this like new AI model. If you scroll down, new AI model, so called the Cell to Sentence Scale 27B, built on Google's Gemma AI family. They actually came up with 2 new ideas for cancer treatments. So the AI study immune system data and found a way to make certain cold tumors, which the immune system usually can't detect, become hot and visible to immune cells. Found there's like a combo for drug, like when they combine 2 drugs together, they made cancer cells easier for the immune system to find and attack. Lab tests actually confirmed the results using real human cells. So this is a big deal. Normally, AI inside only analyze data and find patterns, but this time, the AI actually invented a new hypothesis, an idea that scientists hadn't thought of it before, and it works in the lab. So that's a massive shift. In the past, like AI find things humans already know. This AI, they create something new and testable. That means AI can now generate real scientific ideas. It's not just like crunching numbers, but how does this get so smart and so fast? Is it concerning? How did they achieve this? So this is basically how it works. So the AI was trained on cell data like a language. Each cell's was tested as a sentence. It learned to understand the grammar, how immune cells and tumor interacts. Then it simulated thousands of drug combinations in 2 situations. So when immune system was active and when it found a special pattern. So if immune signals are active, this drug combo makes tumors visible. If not, no change. So that's how the AI discovered the drug combo. The result is, of course, they confirmed one key combo worked. It boosted immune visibility of cells to cells by around 50%. So that's a major improvement. This is still early, of course, but it's real scientific validation. It's not just a theory anymore. What this could lead us in the future. So I'll say AI like this could design personalized immunotherapy based on each patient's tumor type, and also really stimulate clinical trials, virtually saving years and billions of dollars. So in short, AI could cut cancer drug development time from decades to years. I'll say, yeah, it's really good stuff. And whoever is not paying close attention to AI market or what AI is doing, they'll eventually get left behind. So that's the harsh truth. So this moment shows how AI can now think creatively in science, forming ideas, not just analyzing data. And are we getting to AGI closer by day? Like if you think about that, that's extremely scary. I know, Black Mirror stuff, but for the time being, AI didn't replace researchers, it augmented them. So they actually help the works become easier. So it's more like AI and humans teaming up for the time being. But again, time will tell where AI will take us. But right now, I would advise everyone, if they are not using AI right now, they really have to get in and test that yourself. Anyways, that's pretty much all I want to cover in today's show. Last call to action, make sure to follow us on Twitter. So my own Twitter is jamjamcrypto_IO. And make sure to follow Roxham TV. So Roxham TV on Twitter for daily updates. So we have basically almost every half an hour, we have like news updates just to keep our community on in the world. So that's it for today's analysis. Coming to you from, of course, the Hong Kong Roxham studio. I'm live through Friday at 4 a.m. Eastern Time, breaking down the biggest stories in crypto, in markets, and in AI and geopolitics. If you enjoy the stream, make sure to hit the subscribe and catch the next one live. Every day, we connect the dots between global news and digital assets. You can stay ahead of the curve. Whenever you are tuning in from, I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you guys in the next show.